Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Club podcast. I am your host, Graham, and I am joined by these fine gentlemen, Jake
Hello, how are you?
and George.
Hey guys.
Thank you both for joining me, and thank you everyone for joining today. We've got a great episode coming up. So we have played a game. Jake, you have been the Mr. Selector. Why don't you go ahead and take it away with what game we've got and why you chose it, and tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I picked Rayman Legends. It's a Ubisoft developed game that came out in 2013 and was originally planned to be a Wii U exclusive, and I think it was initially.
I think it
maybe,
was for a little bit, yeah.
But then they re-released it for some other stuff. But yeah, platformers, probably one of the best like pure video game experiences you can get for me. And I remembered Origins, the first one of this, was the first Rayman game I'd ever really played. I think I had maybe played the original one on PlayStation for a little bit, but never even passed a level or something. I was just like, well, this is weird, and didn't get into it. So when Origins came out, it was super fun, really well-drawn art, 2D, fast-paced, and this was a sequel to that, and I just felt like when I played it, it reminded me of being a kid and really being just simply into video games with like nothing to worry about. So
Right.
that's why I picked this game.
Pure gaming experience, which is unfortunately something that can really be taken for granted nowadays. It's
Yeah.
quite rare.
Yeah.
Not quite rare, but it's a little dramatic. But well, that's great. Yeah, it's definitely you're certainly right about the art style. It's certainly a well-drawn, striking kind of art style. It's quite nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a
Well,
beautiful looking
excellent.
game.
So why don't we go ahead and jump in? Jake, do you have something off the top of your head that you want to talk about and get into it, or
Yeah.
should I?
So getting into that,
Okay. Please.
yeah, the first thing I want to bring up is it was a Wii U title, and I had forgotten when I picked it how much it actually leaned into that. So it starts up, and I get to the first part where it's the little fairy guy on the screen, and I was like, oh yeah, this game
Little
had a
green
bunch
guy?
of gimmicks.
Henry, I think, or is it Henry? I don't remember what his name is.
Something. Murphy. That's what it's.
Murphy,
that's
yeah.
what it
So
is,
the
for
Murphy
sure.
stuff. It introduces the touchscreen, and when you were playing on the Wii U, it actually would like tell you to like look at your gamepad, and then you would play with the gamepad. And what would happen is the character would move on its own automatically, and you would just move all the platforms and do all the stuff. And sometimes there would be timing elements or maybe a small little puzzle element to it, and that's how you would play that part. And I just forgot about all those gimmicks, and because they just worked so well on the Wii U, and I didn't think about them when I repicked the game picked the game to replay it.
Right.
But yeah, there was that, and then the fact that this game kind of has loot boxes in its own self-contained thing. Just there was weird stuff about it that I had forgotten that are actually kind of funny and like.
In the context of today, it's
yeah, it's
seems a little poor taste, but
yeah,
yeah,
it seems like it's going toward a weird area, but it doesn't really affect the game too much.
Right,
and,
right.
But I found that funny that I completely like forgot about all that stuff. But yet there it was. So, how did you guys feel about that implementation?
About Murphy?
Yeah, about Murphy.
Go ahead, George.
Well, so I guess to give it some context, so I really like this game as a platformer. I didn't like it so much as a Rayman game. My first entry into Rayman was actually in the Game Boy Advance Rayman 2.
Oh.
Or not Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color
Game Boy
Rayman
Color.
2. And then in Game Boy Advance, I played Rayman Advance, which is just the first game of Rayman. So I kind of played them in order. And I was a kid, so I didn't really care. I was just like, I saw a cool character in the title, played it. I remember them being, especially Rayman Advance, being pretty difficult and much more slower paced. And then I played the other one that came to the Game Boy Advance. I can't remember what it was called. Hoodlum. Is it Hoodlum
Hoodlum
Havoc?
Havoc, yeah.
Maybe that's the one that came to it. And
It
then
might
did
be
one
the
come to
it
the
might be
DS?
the Great Escape. Did you play
Great
that?
Escape was Rayman 2, which I played for Game Boy Color.
No.
Maybe not. I'm getting. It's been so long. Like I said, I was a kid, and so maybe I'm getting my timeline of games wrong. But
Mhm.
I played one that came for the Game Boy Color, and then some that came to Game Boy Advance, and maybe to the DS, or maybe I'm just mistaking it with something else. But I remember the games being much more slower paced, much more like there were power-ups that you would get and all that stuff, and in this game it was just very streamlined. The game was much more fast-paced than I remember the other Rayman games being. And in fact, I actually went to look at some videos of Rayman Advance just to make sure it wasn't like, oh, maybe I was a kid and I was bad at games, like like we all were probably. And maybe I just remembering it being slow because I just wasn't that good at it. But no, the game was actually much more slower pace, and like you had to fight enemies a little bit more. Um, Whereas in this game, it was, and in those other games, you would like kind of explore the level, and you would go back and forth. Whereas this game was just going left to right. But as a platformer, it was awesome. It was fun. I just kind of went into it thinking, "Oh, this would be this. I'm playing a Rayman game." And so when it came to those things that you're talking about with Murphy, where you're having to move the platforms and everything, it just for me didn't sit like a Rayman game that I was expecting, and it just made it feel more like a different type of game, if that
Mhm.
makes any sense.
Yeah.
So it's not like that I disliked it as just like an actual mechanic or anything like that. Although it was a little bit clunky at some points, but
No,
I think I
definitely.
just
It's not. You did you play it on Switch though?
I played it on Switch. Yeah, I played the
Okay.
like definitive edition and all that stuff.
So did
I
they
didn't do
have the
handheld.
controls?
I did docked most of the time.
Okay.
Um, and so you would have I can't really remember what button you would press, but you would press it and then Murphy would do his
Yeah,
action.
it just does it
Uh,
automatically.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then sometimes like I was running across too fast for Murphy to be able to like react, and he'd still be like in one side, and I'm like clear over here, and I need to move a platform in front of me, and he's like a few paces behind,
Yeah.
and so and I wouldn't like be able to make it across and stuff. But yeah, so for me that felt like I don't know, like I didn't dislike the mechanic as itself, and yeah, it could have been tweaked and been a little bit better, but I didn't like it as a Rayman game, if that makes sense. So,
Mhm.
and I think that was one of the things that I noticed that just kind of added to it. Like the music levels as well. I absolutely loved those. I thought they were like super fun and it was more of like a rhythm game, but it just didn't feel to me like I was playing Rayman, or at least the
Right.
Rayman that I knew. So that was
Yeah.
how
I
I
don't
felt.
have that context because, like I said, the first Rayman game I really played was Origins, and this is basically just it's
This
just
is
Like a
Rayman
Origins.
for you.
sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
Right.
what Rayman is. So I
Yeah.
don't know the legacy other than just I knew what the character looked like, but I
Yeah.
had no idea what the old games were. I just remember the old games, like you said, they definitely were slower and they looked like the sprites were so much bigger
Yeah.
on that, and you couldn't see as much of the screen, and that's why I thought this was like just I imagined it was probably just a complete reimagining of the whole series because it did look so different, but I
Yeah,
wasn't
I don't
mad at it.
know. Like the name Origins, we played Rayman Legends, but the name Origins implies like the beginning. So I don't know if there was some sort of like reboot or relaunch of Rayman. I don't know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, this was a sequel to that, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's like a completely different feel from the other games that I played.
Yeah, so I actually have like a really similar experience, but like in a different way, and I'll explain kind of what that means. So, I played Rayman back when it originally came out on PC on like MS-DOS.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, like I'm not 100% sure. I might have been on a CD. I think it was on a CD when I would throw it in the PC and I would play it like through that way. I don't think it was floppy at that time. I did play a lot of games on PC that threw floppies though, but I'm pretty sure Rayman was a disc. But either way, so I played the original, and the Game Boy Advance ones I believe are remakes of the original. So we both had
Like
a
remakes
similar.
or ports?
What's that? Or
Are they
ports?
remakes or ports?
They're probably ports, probably closer to
Okay.
ports, yeah.
Okay.
So we probably had a similar experience with our first Rayman stuff, but like very different times and on very different platforms.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like that's so I've played Origins. I actually really like Rayman was one of my favorite characters as a kid. Like I really loved Rayman, and I still really like Rayman. He's in the same category as like Sonic. Like Sonic's my favorite video game character of all time, obviously. But
You say
yeah.
obviously, but for those listening,
That's
like
true. My
that's
online handle
legitimate.
is Supersonic. I've used it for like 2 decades. It's
Yeah.
So
And if you're
I have,
only
like,
listening to audio, turn on the video version. You'll see he's got Sonic tattooed to
Well,
his face.
tattoo on my face. Yeah.
No,
Half the time
just
I'm in the
kidding.
podcast, I've got like a Sonic shirt that I bought from the Sonic movie promotion stuff. Japan had a bunch of really sick T-shirts that I bought. So I love Sonic, and so Rayman has a lot of that like '90s attitude energy, and I just like really like that from the character. And so he was, just a character I enjoyed, and the game was really good. But I remember the games being exceptionally difficult when I was playing them as a kid. And I never beat them, but I don't know, I maybe get like halfway through, but I never really beat them. I just enjoyed playing them and just going through the interesting levels and just playing as Rayman. One game I did play a lot, though, was Rayman on the GameCube N64, Rayman the Great Escape. I played a lot, which is like, it was originally a
3D
place.
platformer.
Yeah, so it's a 3D game. So that's the Rayman that I enjoyed the most, was that 3D one. Like I really enjoyed the one on PC, but when it came to 3D, so like it was on N64, I
Yeah,
believe.
64.
And PlayStation as well. I think it was, I don't know which platform it came to first or what the differences are, but I
think
really
the one I played on Game Boy Color.
was
like,
this game on Game Boy Color?
Yes, but it was a 2D. Like they called it game. I don't know if it was.
Okay, they
Yep.
call it, so it's very different.
Yeah, they called it. I don't know what the difference is. Like if it's the same story or whatever. But yeah, it was Rayman 2: The Great
especially
Escape.
during the Game Boy Color and Advanced era, there was a lot of games like that where they just ported them over with the same name, but they were obviously
So
not
interesting.
the same game.
Yeah.
They were just
I have never
completely
seen
different.
this 2D one. Huh. That's
Are you?
weird.
I'm looking it up right now just to make
Yeah.
sure that was. And this is the one that I played.
Yeah, so
I
I
don't- I
played
don't
the
know
one
if, like,
on
it-
I played on N64, and
Okay.
it was awesome, man. I played the ever-loving crap out of this game. It was so cool. I was so into like the world and like characters and stuff, and they'd have this like way of speaking that was like not English. It was just like sounds. They're like baba subu daba doo baba, and I was just like, this is so cool. Like these characters feel so real. I just got really into it. So that's like the Rayman I like the most, and I'm in a similar vein to George. Like I do like Rayman Origins and Legends, and I think Legends is an improvement over Origins in some ways and a digression in some other ways. But I think overall, like George said, when I think of Rayman, I think of like slower paced stuff. So it's a really solid platformer, but it's a so-so Rayman game. It's not quite. It's just like going from Banjo-Kazooie and then going to Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, right? Like, but Nuts and Bolts is a terrible Banjo-Kazooie game, but it's a great like build vehicles and drive them game, right? So
Yeah, that's really interesting hearing you guys say that, because I don't know those other ones, and now Rayman isn't like ingrained in my head as this thing, and it's one of my favorite things of all time. I mean, so to continue on the conversation about the weird mechanics,
right.
Even with these weird mechanics in here, that if you're playing, see, like I just played the regular PC version with the gamepad, and it worked fine. Like I didn't actually run into any problems. Like I guess George is just way faster than me at some parts, but I never ran into a problem where I was on one side of the screen and couldn't get Murphy to do what I wanted. There was just some weird timing stuff. Like if you were playing the old one, the part where you have to draw through the like sand or whatever, or the cake or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That was a lot easier and quicker, of course, when you were just doing it with the touchscreen and the stylus or whatever. Right. And So there's just weird things that were lost in translation, which is really sad, and it just goes along with my thing of like being upset about the Wii U and its whole situation. The fact that
Agreed.
this happened to be one of the best third-party game, actually one of the best Wii U developed games, because I remember having so much fun with it and being like, wow, this is what games are going to be like on this thing, like if they all utilize it this well, because it just was so seamless, and it was gimmicky, but like in the best way, and it
Right.
didn't it only added to the game, and I thought it was perfect, and it wasn't overdone. So yeah, it's just another example of like that era being so weird and just not getting enough out of the Wii U.
I don't know if we've mentioned this on the podcast before. I think maybe we have, but like I'm 100% with you on like the disappointment that the Wii didn't like go anywhere, because Nintendo Land, when George and I were roommates, we had so much freaking fun with Nintendo Land. It's one of the greatest
Yeah.
multiplayer gaming
Yeah.
experiences I've ever had. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's
That
such a
was
weird
awesome.
console with such
Yeah.
with the stuff that is on it that is like really good is really good. And
Yeah.
it sucks that some of it may be lost to time because of that
Yeah. Agreed.
stuff. But that being said, it still held together for me. Like George said, the music stuff. This game has incredible artwork, incredible music, incredible flow and level design, and it isn't a very hard game. I will
No.
admit that. Like you guys are talking about the difficulty of these other games, it's not that hard. It has some challenge to it, but it's also very forgiving, and it's just a really easy game to get in there and keep playing. The checkpoint system is one of the best I've ever seen. It just like goes right back to where you were almost, like in every little section, and you don't have to do anything like guess where you were or whatever. It's pretty linear. The game is not about complication. It's not about figuring out what to do. The game is about just doing. So it's very
just doing.
active. It's a really active game. You're constantly doing something. There's always something on the screen to collect. There's usually not too many enemies to worry about, but they're fun to like bounce off of and punch them. It just has like a really good feeling, even though there's no challenge. Just like you're running full speed and you do a turn punch and just then jump right into a wall and do whatever. So I get that it from a just if somebody wants something that's really hard, it's probably not the game for them. But that's not I mean, I love a challenge too sometimes, but that's not exactly what I look for when I play a game. I just look for like feeling, and this game evokes all the best feelings. Even at its worst, it's still really charming in every single way. It's just I think it holds up even with the little bit of lost in translation mechanics. Especially the musical levels. They're so good. They're so fun. I would just play them over and over again.
Yeah, I remember when this game was coming out and they did a lot of promotion on those like musical levels, and I specifically remember that first musical level they showed all the time in promotional material. That was like the big thing. So I specifically remember thinking like that's a cool idea. This is the first time I finally got around to playing through the game, thankfully, with the game club. So it was they were as good as I hoped. They're just a lot of fun. I think the first song is like one of the best, and I think the other levels, while also very good, are not quite as good as the first one, in my opinion. But I mean, that's like a music taste thing, right? So, I going back to the Murphy thing. For me, it was pretty hit or miss. Sometimes I felt like, oh, this is really good, and there's like a lot of good flow to like using Murphy. But then other times I was like, man, I hate this mechanic so freaking much. So.
Well, it's just like it's just fundamentally completely different.
It's
in
very
some parts.
different.
Some parts it's not really that big of a deal. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just hitting the button to move the thing at the right time. But there are certain sections where it's completely different. Yeah. Because again, you weren't even controlling the character. You would just be drawing this stuff for them or whatever. Like the parts where you have to draw the walls and stuff. It's just it flip flops the game around a little bit. So
Yeah, like on the like the 20,000 Lums Under the Sea world, where you're like moving stuff to like hide you from the green
From the lights.
Stuff like that. I thought that worked pretty good. Like I had a lot of fun with that, swapping the panels going in and out. Like that was really fun. But like the drawing platforms, I hated that. The eating the cake stuff, I hated that. So like there were things I liked and there were things I didn't like about it. And you could clearly tell this was like some really random gimmick from like a console that's now totally dead. But I had a lot more fun with the mechanic when I changed. Like I don't know what your guys' control scheme was, but the default was the triangle or the top face button on your controller, out of the 4 face buttons. So that was like the worst freaking thing ever, because sometimes it was like jump and also hit freaking top face button at the same time, which are like both using the same thumb. So I had to switch it over to left trigger, and that was way better.
That makes sense. I didn't even think about that.
It was,
I'm always on you guys about remapping
like...
keys on the keyboard, but on the gamepad, I didn't even think about it. I just did it.
That's so interesting. Yeah. So once I remapped it though, I was like, oh, this is so much better. It's so much more flow. But it still didn't change the fact that I hated some of the instances and how it was implemented. But you know.
Yeah, I don't remember. Like I said, I played it on the Switch. I don't remember. I actually have it right here, just so I can like refresh myself on some stuff. But yeah, Murphy was okay. He wasn't terrible. He was
okay.
What about other mechanics? What do you guys feel about the general feeling of the game?
I felt like it was pretty good. It was a game that allowed you to play a lot. By the time that this comes out, our Super Cloud Built episode will have been out for a long time. But one thing that we talked about in that when we discussed it was the flow state and how it would get interrupted a lot in Super Cloud Built for one reason or another. In this game, I felt like I was able to get into that flow state really well, and like you said, part of it I think is also because the game's like not very hard. There's like no lives. That was the one thing that I found, because I remember Rayman had lives. The original Rayman had lives that I played. This game didn't have lives, so yeah, you're right. And the checkpoints are, I'd say the level is divided into maybe like 12 pieces, 12 invisible checkpoints, and then once you get past a certain section, if you die or whatever, then you can like come right back.
Forgiving.
Yeah,
I think lives are such an antiquated mechanic. Like there's no reason to have lives. I think you either go the Rayman route where you have no lives, or you go a route where every level has its own set amount of lives, and that they expect you of like, listen, if you can't beat this in 6 lives, 7 lives, 3 lives.
Like you get 3 respawns and there's maybe 2 checkpoints.
And then it's over. You start again, right? That's how and then maybe you could even have, especially for a game like Rayman Legends where challenge is definitely not what they're going for, you could even have a toggle of like, do you want to play the game, with no lives, or do you want to have it with these checkpoint style, like limited lives, right? You could do something like that. But like the idea of like grinding for lives and like having 99 lives and just like what's the point? It's so weird. Nintendo still does that with like Mario stuff a lot. It's just really bizarre. But,
I haven't given that a thought, because I played Mario Maker a lot too, and that obviously has lives.
Right.
Lives in Super Mario World on the SNES felt not needed, and then that was how many years ago?
Yeah, it's a weird concept if you go and really think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to derail this into like
checkpoint.
Yeah, well, I don't want to derail this into like a conversation about another game, because we're talking about Rayman, but I think lives are okay in certain aspects, because I don't know.
Well, what do lives accomplish exactly, right? Like if you were to have, so if you wanted to create a system where people can just keep trying again, whether the level is difficult or not, the lives in that instance only serve to take you out of the level and you have to start it all over again, or you have to grind out a bunch of lives on like a difficult level that you're doing. So it serves to just make you grind stuff. Like if you're doing a difficult level, now I got to grind up like 20, 30 lives because this level's difficult and I know it's going to be tough, so I want these lives, right? So by having no lives in that circumstance, you're only just removing an arbitrary grind, right? It's if you get to a tough part, you can keep trying and trying and trying again.
The main thing that I'm like thinking about is Super Mario Maker, because that's the thing that's most fresh in my mind. And they recently introduced like worlds. Like you yourself can make a world, and you can determine how many lives someone has to beat the entire world.
Right,
Um,
but that's the other side of that's not like a traditional lives kind of system, right? Like, can you go back to levels and theoretically grind out a bunch of lives? Or,
Uh, I guess you could. I don't know if I've tried, but I think you can. But the reason about it is, or the thing with it is that sometimes what a lot of creators will do is they'll give you separate two routes. One that's a little bit harder, but if you go through that route, you get an extra life. And if you survive, boom, you have an extra life for the next level. And then if you go the easier route, you didn't lose. There's a lower probability of you dying and losing a life, but there's also no chance of you getting another one, a new one, if you did it well. So that's the specific context that I'm thinking about. Because if you were to do away with lives completely, maybe there could be another incentive for a harder route, I guess. But like a collectible isn't quite the same as a life.
right.
So I don't know. I really haven't given it a lot of thought, and I don't want to derail this into a
Sure.
Mario Maker conversation.
No, I think
But
I think it's a good thing to bring up because I think lives have value, but I think the lives and how they're traditionally set up don't have value. I think you either make it so that there's infinite lives so you can keep throwing yourself against a challenge again and again. And you can make the challenge as easy as difficult as you want, but I think having to re-grind out lives is dumb. However, if you are trying to set up a scenario where you must beat X challenges over Y lives and you very precisely curtail or tune the amount of lives that this player is going to have and they have to beat it within that like limitation, that makes sense. The current setup for lives in general though is you get lives at like almost random intervals. They're thrown at you in mass, and then if you hit a roadblock and spend all your lives, now you've got to go back and grind a bunch, right? Instead of like just hitting a restart button and being like, okay, this is a 7 live level, or this world, this set of 3 levels is 7 lives, and if you run out, you start again with 7 lives, rather than being like, oh, I can make this easier by grinding to 20 lives, right? That's the current way that lives generally are implemented. Is just you just grind them out. So yeah, I
yeah,
think there's
yeah, I
value
guess
to it.
that's
You
that's
just
a
got to
good
do it
point.
right.
Yeah, because like Mario Maker even limits you to up to 3 lives that you can gain a level. So you couldn't
Sure.
ever like infinitely grind and stuff. So yeah, maybe yeah. But to bring it back to what I was saying about the flow state in Rayman, like I
Right.
felt like it was really easy to get into the flow state, and that's probably like my favorite thing about 2D platformers is when you can just get in that state and just kind of go through the level and react to things as they come. That's that's peak gaming for me. So I really, like I said before, like I really like this as a platformer. As a Rayman game, not so much, but as a platformer, I think it's absolutely great. Each level has its own like little theme, or not level, sorry. Each world has its own little theme. Um, like the
You
cake
got
one,
medieval, you got
Yeah.
fairy
medieval.
tale, you got the
Yep.
water, underground water, submarine stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You
the
got some sort of
food,
like Greek, yeah, food
the
one. Yeah,
food
that's right.
levels. Then the
The
like darkness themed
Yeah,
one.
well, I could even find the names right here because I have it on my
Yeah.
Switch. But yeah, like I thought the levels were really awesome. I thought there were a
Yeah, I
lot of
think they're pretty
variations
interesting.
between them.
In terms of flow, I agree and disagree. So I think the flow, when you hit flow in Rayman, I think they do a really good job. But I think I went into some levels and I had a really good time getting into like good flow, but there were other levels that felt like really inconsistent with like picking up flow. It was like I would hit flow and then they'd like set up something where it was like maybe I just was bad and I couldn't react in time, or I just felt like it's like, oh, this is a scenario where I can't necessarily react to, or if I try and react, I'm gonna get like pushed down and like die. So I felt like I was hitting flow sometimes, and when I hit it, it felt really nice. But there were other times where I was hitting roadblocks that was like taking me out of flow constantly. I was like, okay. So I was pretty back and forth on that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely not completely. It's less about the flow and more about just the immersion of being in the game for me on this game. Like it definitely has those flow moments, and I think it takes that to the next level when it goes to the music levels and other sections of the game where it's the running parts basically, like
Right.
where you're running up and up inside the walls and trying to jump back and forth and running from fire or something.
Right.
So
Those
those
levels
parts are really fun and really
Yeah.
tight, and you got to be perfect on them. You can't mess up. So that's basically its ceiling. And yeah, and in the middle of levels, so all the levels, every single one has like 2 hidden teenies, like the king and queen teenies. And so they've got to have these spots like there's not much exploration, like we talked about before. The levels are very linear and there's not a lot of space. I mean, there's a lot of space on the screen that you can see, but there's not a lot of space that you can't see that's not there. But there are sections where they do hide these little doors to find the extra teenies. And I feel like because of that, because of the way they made it, there are sections where it kind of slows down a bit. Or there's something where it gives you a second to like stop and be like, oh, wait, if I jump over here,
Right.
or if I take this little thing down here, maybe there's a secret.
Right.
And they're not exceptionally like super hidden. I think they even have sound cues or something.
Yeah. You're like, "Help
Yeah.
me."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it does have a little bit of that kind of breaks the flow. But again, I think it's just the overall experience of the game just never making me feel bad for being in it. Like, I don't ever feel like overly pressured or lost forever. I just feel like everything's just happening and it's fun. Like, it just never stops being cute and fun. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that. One thing I will say when it comes to flow, so this is going to be kind of a weird take.
Okay.
A long time ago, when Origins came out, there was another game that came out near that time called Rayman Adventures. Has anyone heard of this? It's basically
No.
I think it's the middle game in between Origins and Legends. And it's Rayman
wow.
on the phone.
I've literally never heard of this game.
oh,
Yeah, so
And it's
it
the
was
same style too, though.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. The only difference is Rayman runs automatically. The only thing that you
it's an
do,
auto-runner.
yeah, the only thing that you do is tap to
Oh.
like jump or tap to punch and
It's
stuff
like that
that.
one Mario game. What was it? The one that's on the phone?
Yeah, it's like the Mario game, except that Mario game sucks, and this Rayman game on the phone is actually really
Super
good.
Mario Run.
So it's like it's
Okay.
like the cool music levels that they made already, where you're basically
Yeah.
auto running.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So you're basically, because like that's the thing, right? That like you just said, on the music levels, you're just running straight anyways, right? Like they could literally just auto run, and you could sit there and click the button, and it would be the same
you just
experience.
need one button or 2 buttons, jump and
Right,
punch,
jump and
maybe.
attack. So that's basically what this phone game is Rayman will run in the direction that would want to go, and most of the time it's very consistent. And I think you can like swipe to change the direction.
Yeah, I'm watching it now, and you can it basically just goes and you swipe it back and forth, but you can still like,
Right.
jump and then do your stomps and.
Yeah, so speaking of flow, when I was playing Legends, I just thought of this game, and I felt like the phone game had more flow, which is, I mean, total sacrilege, really, if you think about it. But
I mean, it's possible.
but I really was just remembering this game on the phone. I played this phone game a lot. I think I played it all the way through. It was a lot of fun. Like I just enjoyed
It
sitting
looks
on
like
my
I might
phone.
have to check it out.
Yeah, you might
There's
really
another
like
one
it.
called Rayman Mini.
Yeah, I saw
game?
that too as I was looking it up. I have no idea about that one. It just came out. It looks
Yeah.
like recently this year. But yeah, like I think I thought that was really good, to be honest. It was solid. So not to knock Rayman Legends, but I think it's clear that they're really good at producing some kind of flow stuff when it's more in like a little bit controlled. And I mean it kind of sounds lame in the sense of like, oh, you're taking away control and you're turning it into something a little more mindless. I mean, maybe you could see it that way, but I thought it was a pretty solid game overall. And I think in that instance, this is going to sound really weird, but I think in that instance, controlling your character directly is like overstated. Like it's not overstated, but it's.
Well, I'll agree with you on those specific levels, but also I just kind of like the agency of being the character. Like there's all these different characters you can unlock, and they all look wacky and funny, and the whole game is just comedic. And so like being able to even just go into a simple level and oh yeah, you're supposed to be running here and like jump off these guys' heads or whatever, and then go to the thing. But sometimes you just like want to just ground pound them and then just sit there and wind up a punch on the other one and do it, just to, I don't know, feel in the game, because it's just dumb. Like there's nothing serious about it. So I like that you actually get to exist as these characters, and I really like the like barbarian girl characters that you unlock with the axes and stuff.
Yeah.
They're just like swinging when you do the punch when you're running. They're just like swinging their axe around. It's just so much fun. But
yeah, I can understand that, and maybe there's room. I mean, clearly there's room for both of those games and types to exist, and they both provide really engaging experiences. Particularly on the aesthetic. This is gonna be another sacrilege thing. I'm not really big on Rayman's whole aesthetic thing. I
Rayman
like
Legends, you mean?
Rayman Legends, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Rayman Legends specifically. I think it's beautiful, all of the like hand-drawn stuff, but like I don't know. There's aspects of the new Rayman, because this is the new Rayman, right? This like very hand-drawn type of Rayman. Like there's aspects I really like. I like some of the quirkiness, but at the same time, there's other parts of the quirkiness aesthetic that I don't really like. Like I don't think any of the characters are particularly like good look, like aesthetically pleasing to me. I thought the environments, while pretty, are not like,
they're goofy.
Yeah.
It's really goofy.
yeah, like the enemy design I don't really love, and the boss design I really didn't like. And I think the environments, while good, are just kind of like there was nothing that was really doing it for me. The one thing, this is really small, but the one thing I really like is I like how the characters themselves play into like a kind of musical aesthetic, or a musical. I don't exactly know what this is, but like when I think in Rayman Origins they played this up a little more, but like at the beginning of the game when everyone's sleeping, they sleep and there's like a rhythm, and they like make a song while they're sleeping. And I think Rayman Origins, I think there's like a video at the beginning of it or something where they really played that into that even more, where they're like all eating and like making noises, and one person's sleeping, one person's eating, and it's like making this like big symphonic like song, and it's like it's just so like good and jazzy, and I was like, yes, I'm so into this, like that they just naturally make music by just existing and doing things. I wish they would go more in that direction for like their kind of weird quirky thing, because like when Golbu, I can't remember his name, the blue guy, I used to remember his name because he's in the N64 game, but the blue guy, Glubo, whatever.
It looks like a salamander
Globox.
Globox,
I think it is. Yeah. When Globox scratches himself, he makes like a DJ scratch table kind of like kind of sound, right? Like it's so sick. I love that. I was like, oh, this is so cool. I freaking love this. For some reason, that aspect of it really jives with me, but the other stuff, it's just kind of lost on me. I was kind of like, except the Luchadore stuff was amazing. I absolutely loved that. And I don't normally like Luchadore stuff, but it was hilarious. Like the Luchadore guys like jumping around, especially when they're like jumping through the cake, and you do that like chase scene in the cake, and they're just like, like going through it. Like that was hilarious to me. It was amazing. That I really liked. But yeah, I just wish they would lean more into that. Like the characters are music, or their actions produce music in like a fun way. But that's like it's like a small thing that they do for funsies that I wish they would just like become everything.
Just like the whole game, just be like
yeah. I wish the whole game was
it's
somehow
now
like that.
Platform and a rhythm game, like,
right? Well, I mean that's kind of what I would like, really. So
like every level has a basically a metronome of a beat, and you gotta punch the guys right at the right time, and you get more looms when you do, or something like
maybe
that.
Yeah, like something like that. Like it would be cool if they built in some kind of mechanic where when you start playing to rhythm, like every level has some kind of like flow and rhythm, and it starts like as you start going, like maybe you're just like you start and you're like going through the level, but then as you hit that flow state of the level is like there's a mechanic in the background that starts to sync up like song or sound effect or something that like doesn't play initially, but when you start hitting like a consistent stride, then it starts like playing into some music, and it's like, oh, this could be really sick. Like I really wish Rayman would go in that direction, because then I would play Rayman all day long, because like like
It'd be a
we're
much more
talking.
complicated game, but it would be super fun.
Yeah, but I think once you hit that flow state, if they would develop some technology that like coincides with bringing in some kind of synchronous music or even just sound effects to produce some kind of rhythm,
Like beat.
yeah, some kind of beat. Ooh, man, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, that's pretty much what the music levels are. But I guess the
Yeah,
music
but they're
levels
so on
start
rails.
off that way.
Right, they're
Yeah.
very on rails. So I'm thinking of something dynamic.
And that's
Yeah.
that thing of being on rails, like when you were talking about the phone game, and I haven't played it, so I can't truly talk about it. But like the thing that I kept thinking about was that Temple Run game on the phone. Have you ever played
Right.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, I mean, I don't know what it is, but I would never feel like I'm in a flow state with something like that where the actual direction and speed at which you're running is kind of taken away from you. Um, because
But
like
when you're in a flow state and you're running, are you not never? You're always running a full speed, full ahead, are you not? Generally.
I'm not. I'm most of the time, but I do slow down
I
because
guess
I'm
that's true.
like wind down and so I can see, and then like I speed back up, kind of like
Right.
with well, I guess not kind of because it has nothing to do with it, but like with Mario Kart, you're not always accelerating.
That's
You're
true.
accelerating most of the time, but a lot of times you're like
Maybe you don't, but I do.
braking
Right into the wall. Every time,
Yeah,
I
like
never
some-
learn my lesson.
That's a
Like,
fair
it's
point.
not braking, but like what's it called? Sliding when
Yeah,
you're like
you're drifting and you're not
Drifting,
always
yeah.
accelerating. Sometimes you do it. I understand what you're saying. That's a good point.
Yeah. So like something about that, just that little bit added measure of control for me personally, it would take away from me and would make me feel like I'm because like the other thing too is like if you decelerate, is that
Decelerate?
how
I
you say
think
it?
so.
Yeah. Slow down.
Slow down. Decelerate is
you-
definitely a word. I'm
Okay,
99%
okay. I
sure.
just if you slow down at the right time, it allows you to kind of hit the next things at the right time as well, and then you can
Right.
speed up and stuff. And so like yeah, if you're going just full throttle, a lot of the times you'll end up just hitting a wall. In
Yeah, you do
Rayman
have to pay
and Mario
attention. Yeah, because
Kart.
there'll be jumps where it's like, here's the 3 bouncy things, but if you're running full speed when you jump off of this, you're not gonna hit it
You're
the
gonna
right
miss.
way.
That's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as what you were saying about the aesthetic, I like it. It I don't know, there's nothing for me to dislike, but there's also nothing for me to like particularly enjoy. The other characters are cool, I guess, but I like Rayman's design so much that I never played as any of the other characters. I unlocked, I think maybe all of them, or at least most of them, and I
I
just
like the
stuck.
cool color Raymans, like the blue, the light blue ones or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they have like negative color Rayman. He has. I have the Switch has the like Ultimate Edition or whatever it's called. So it has like
Definitive
everything.
Edition.
Definitive Edition, that's what it is. So there's all the levels, all the extra added DLC and stuff. And still, I played as the main Rayman character like 90% of the time. I did switch over to like the Mario one just to see what it looked like and kind of liked it. And so I played as him a little bit. But
Oh yeah.
in fact, I
forgot
think
about
that might be
in
my
Mario
current.
one.
Yeah, it might be my current skin actually. But for the most of the game, I played as regular Rayman. So I just
Yeah.
really like. There's something like as a kid, there was something I enjoyed so much about like not having arms
Yeah.
and like
But
the
still
fact that
having
you could like
fists.
yeah, so having fists and like he could control stuff. And there's a game, maybe it's even Origins. What's the game where he like bounce if you're idle for enough time, he like bounces his body as a basketball. There's a game that I remember him doing that, and then he like shoots it as a hoop when he like finishes the level. There's like a little like hoop thing, and he throws it. And I just thought, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. Like he's bouncing his body as a basketball, and like there's a game where he's like hanging, and then instead of doing like the fist like punch, he like does it with his foot. His foot winds up, and then I don't know.
Right.
I freaking like love the no limbs thing. So
I don't know if Jake agrees with your kind of take on that, because maybe people who are coming into the series from Origins are because I think Origins is less like has less focus on like Rayman's like bodily thing that he's got going on, and because it is much more faster
Mhm.
paced. So I don't know if Jake agrees, but I absolutely 100% agree with what you're saying. Like 100%. There's something just weirdly mesmerizing about his limbless body and how he like does stuff. It's just cool.
Yeah. And the fact that his hair spins to like glide and
Yeah,
stuff,
it's
dude.
just-
I
he's
love
so
the
cool.
Rayman design.
Rayman's
I
so
love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I feel as strongly about it as you guys do, but I definitely he's iconic. I mean, I've known about him forever. But yeah, I in the context of this game, I basically when there was a new character unlock, I would just go ahead and switch to it. And the ones that I ended up playing with the most, like I'll try and remember back when I first played the game because I didn't like unlock completely everything this time, but the last time I did, and I think I would play a lot of there's one of the girl dressed up in like complete goth, like black with like bat wings and stuff. I played a lot with that character. And then I think just the straight blue Rayman. I thought he looked really cool. Like the aqua blue.
The
But-
aqua blue. I
He
really like
could
the
be a
aqua
skin
blue.
in Smash Bros.
But yeah, in general,
That
I
could
liked
be a
all
Rayman
of the
skin.
yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of cool ones. But in general, I liked all the character designs. I mean, even the teenies, like playing as a teenie was like felt cool because you would like they do the punches and the kicks in the air and they just look so
Yeah.
cute. And then like the glow box skins, like when you duck with him, he just like flattens completely out.
Yeah.
Like and it's all so cartoonish and just
It's
ridiculous in
yeah.
their own ways. Like everything, like Rayman, it all feels like it goes together. All the characters, but they're all so different at the same time. Like Glowbox doesn't look anything like Rayman, and like the humans are just characterized in their own little way. And then you got these teenies, which you don't even look like know what they just look like one of Rayman's shoes or something, like with hats and coats
Right.
on. So it's all this weird, strange world that just works together because they're all caricaturized and cartoonized in the same way. So yeah,
Yeah.
I liked everything about the aesthetics. But I didn't like so much the 3D models of like the bosses and stuff. I feel like
Yeah.
they kind of poked out a little bit, but I get what they were trying to go for.
Yeah. While I didn't love the aesthetic, I did enjoy it to a degree, but I will agree with you 100% about the creativity. The creativity is fantastic. Like seeing how all the characters need to play the same, so they came up with like creative ways for all the characters to do similar stuff. It's
They
just
like
really
feel
fun.
exactly the same.
Yeah, they feel exactly the same, but they all like look and like seem like they kind of play different, but they're all really the
Yeah.
same. It's really cool. I really like that. It's such a great creative decision. I changed from I played Rayman the whole time until I got the girl, the 20,000 Lums world where you're like in the submarine. Once I unlocked her, she's got like the helmet on with the little like
Yes.
green ear
I played
things.
that one a lot too.
Yeah, once I got her, it was game over for Rayman. I just went straight
I'm going
to
to that level right now because I don't remember
Yeah.
what she looked like.
Once I unlocked her, I was like, you're the one. This is the
Oh, and
one."
she's got a trident. Okay, yes.
Yeah,
I
she's
know
got a
who this is.
trident.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it is. Yeah, it's gonna
Yeah,
try it instead of the
so-
axe. Yeah.
Yeah, so she replaced Rayman for me, but it's it is what it
That
is.
was a fun world.
That was my
20,000
that was my
Some Under the
favorite
Sea.
one.
Yeah, let's talk about which levels or worlds were your favorite.
That one was my favorite. When you honestly, maybe it's because of what we talked about earlier, but like when I had to slow down and like go through the levels like a little bit more methodically and do especially I love the stealth stuff. Stealth in general is super fun. So when I had to
It's
slow
really
down,
well done in this game.
it's so well done.
And then
It's
the
so well
underwater
done.
with it is like it just works so well.
Yeah, when I first got there, I was like, oh, frick, water levels.
That's-
I know.
this is the
I'm so glad you
worst.
said that because that was my exact reaction. I was like, this game was so good till they introduced the water level. That's what I thought.
Frick, man, this is gonna suck. And then like I like played, I was like, okay, this isn't too bad so far. And then like you get to the submarine and you're like, it's no more water levels. I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty sick. And then even the water sections were good. The controls are snappy, they're quick. You've got an option to have a burst of speed. I think they nailed. Like this is one of the only
Yeah.
games I played where I was like, wow, they nailed.
Yeah,
water
the
levels. This
underwater
is
stuff
crazy.
did not leave a bad taste in
Yeah.
my mouth for sure.
It's very impressive. So
Yeah.
that
And the
was
game
my
works so
favorite
well
one
on
of
an
the few
analog
games.
stick too.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
switched to D-pad, and it's still like from the very beginning I was playing on only D-pad, and I thought it worked just fine. But I can understand. I did have that thought while I was playing. I was like, oh, this would work even better on a stick. because
Yeah,
you'd
because
have
I
a more
remember
full
on
range.
default on the Wii U, that's what I think it was only the stick you could use, like on the
Probably.
original controller, and so I just never thought anything about it. And I'm a person who, based on the game, will just switch back and forth. I'm
Right.
not like a purist of like D-pad only. No, I think it really matters like the game. I don't know why. Like I'm not a person who knows like how the coding of platforming works and everything, but they definitely designed this game to be played more with an analog
Yeah,
stick, you know,
I
because
would
it
say
isn't
so.
100% precise. But
Yeah,
yeah, it feels it made the underwater stuff even feel even better because
I
you
can
got
imagine.
all directions. But yeah, in general, so you liked the 20,000.
Yeah, it was so fun, man.
That
I
was one
was
of my
like,
favorite worlds as well.
that was the biggest turnaround of like 180 of like my expectations were here, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is actually sick. I love this. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that one too. I like the one where you have to go all the way to one side of the submarine and then come back
Yes.
through the area.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep. I will say, as an honorable mention, I really liked some of the cake levels. There was like a couple cake levels I was like, this legitimately sucks. And then there were other cake levels like, this is so good. Like they nailed it. So there's really like a back and forth with me on that. But the consistency of 20,000 lums under the sea or whatever it is that was like consistently fantastic.
Yeah, that was a really good world. I think that was my favorite world, but I was actually just going to make sure I got the name right. My favorite level though is the one in the Olympus Maximus world, and it's the one called All Hell Breaks Loose, and it's the one where you're running away from dragons, and it's actually a Murphy level as well. You have him like you're there's like a large section where you're like running down the wall and you're having to jump like from different wall to different wall, and there's spikes in your way, but Murphy can cut down these like H-looking things that come down in front of the spikes, and you can run in front of them. That was actually a level that took me a long time to figure out because I wasn't able to get the Murphy timing down, and I just wasn't getting it. And then it like clicked and became my favorite level. I actually replayed that level a few times because it was so fun. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like in the flow state. Once I got the flow state of that level, dude, it's a total blast just running through it, cutting all the stuff at the right time, like jumping from one side because there's like saw wheels kind of just like spinning on the side of the wall, and you have to like jump, and then there's spikes, and then you have to like make sure you cut down the rope so that another like platform can come down in time so you can run on it. And like, oh dude, that level was like my favorite of all of them. But as a world, I think I liked all the worlds actually. There's no world I Oh, that's incorrect actually. There is one world I disliked. um I don't know if this is in the original. I'm sure it is. The Living Dead Party world. Do you guys have that in the other versions?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I don't know what the difference is between this one, but the one funnily enough, it was all music levels, which I loved the music levels, but I hated that they would like pixelate the levels in this one so bad you could like not see what you were doing, and it actually hurt my it actually hurt my eyes. Like I was having like I got a headache trying to play some of it. I beat the whole world. I got all 21 teensies out of it. But there's the Toad one, the music level from the Toad one, it goes into like black and white static, and like after a while you're just like yeah, and you're like barely able to see Rayman through it, and like when you jump at certain times, like it appears for a second and then it goes back to like plain white static. And then what's the other one? There's one where he becomes like absolutely absolutely pixelated. Like he becomes like a 1-bit little thing, and you can like barely see him. Dude, that hurt my eyes. It gave me an actual headache playing through that world. And as I've said before, and I will continue to say again, I'm like ridiculously stubborn to a fault when it comes to games. And so I 100% this whole stupid level. But yeah, I hated it. It hurt my eyes so much.
Dang.
It hurt my eyes. So that's the only world that I didn't like. The rest of them were amazing though.
So I think all the other I really like the last world a lot. Olympus Maximus, because that's where the more of the running stuff and a little bit more of the precise stuff does come in, and by that point, like, I'm ready to just, have something crazy happen and have a little bit more challenge. And it comes just at the right time for me in the game. But my favorite overall is exactly the opposite of yours. Your worst one. I love
really?
those remixes of the
Really?
of all of the music.
All
Yes,
right, well,
so
fair
much
enough.
fun to me. When I discovered that, and like they were legitimately really hard. Like the Granny's World Tour one, where it like breaks up into different. It keeps changing into more screens. Like it just keeps adding.
Oh yes.
Like
Yeah.
multiples of the screens, and you can't, like, so you can't see anything at all. And it's just the same levels. It's just visually they're just messing with you, and
Yeah.
well, and they sound different too. They're completely remixed on the sound. I showed that stuff to everybody who I knew that didn't play the game, or didn't play games even in general, and they thought it was pretty cool. Like I would show them the regular level, and then I would show them that, and I would like do it in front of them, and they'd be like, "Whoa, that's crazy!" So for me, that was probably the coolest part of the game, like as far as
Yeah,
worlds go.
I
But
didn't like that
everything
one
else
at
is
all.
just on par as far as like, design, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very like creative, right? Like it's such a good risk to be like, okay, let's see what we can kind of get away with and do. So
Yeah, they're definitely creative. I'll give you that for sure.
yeah,
And in the Olympus Maximus, I think it has one of the coolest enemies, which is a like swarm of like little black. I don't even know what they are. Little like
Yeah.
insect-looking things.
Darkness.
Yeah, they
creatures.
remind me of those little black things from Totoro.
Totoro,
You
yeah,
know that
the
you know,
black soots.
yeah, those little things. It reminded me of that, except like the evil version of whatever the heck those things are.
I don't think it's
Um,
Totoro though. It's Spirited Away. Is that what you're thinking?
No, it's Totoro.
Is it
I'm
Totoro?
like 90% sure. Black.
Okay, I might be thinking of something
balls.
else then.
Black dust balls. Yeah, the suit sprites. Yep, Totoro. Yep. Dude, this is one of my favorite movies as a kid.
Oh, okay, are they in? Oh, they must be. Are they in?
They're probably in Spirited Away as well,
well,
maybe. Yeah.
Okay,
see,
this is what I was thinking of.
Spirited
Yeah, they definitely remind me of
Away
that as well.
Suit sprites. I don't. I think they're in both, maybe.
They must be. Let's see. Yeah, I think.
I don't know.
Pretty sure they are. But either way.
Fun little fun fact. I still only watch Totoro in Spanish. I cannot watch it in English. I hate the voice acting in English for it. It's actually decent. but yeah.
Well, I
Excuse
think
me.
voice acting in anime is generally awful, but fun fact, I don't like any of the
Ghibli studio stuff.
Ghibli movies, so I think they're all. Anyways,
I like
but that's
Totoro, but anyways, let's get back
that's
to
a
the
very
game.
unpopular take.
Yeah, and a whole different conversation probably.
Yeah,
with the
exactly.
right
Yeah.
people.
Yes.
But yeah, the little black darkness,
the darkness
things
guys, yeah.
was one of the coolest enemies. And there's like a level where you're running through and you like hit these like purple spikes.
Yep. And
it like shoots up flare, looks like fireworks, and they all kind of like melt away. Oh, that was awesome.
And the levels where you
Very
get to
cool.
like control where they go and then have to play around them is just
very
like
fun.
It's just an example of and maybe that stuff sneaks in and you guys get taken out of some of the flow stuff, but that's the thing about this game that I would say is that you're just constantly engaged and you always know what to do, but it's never like overly
Well, that's what I refer to
complicated.
as flow.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
was about to say
knowing
the
what
same
to do.
thing. Yeah, like
okay.
Yeah.
I
you
thought
said
you guys
the
meant more
exact
just like
I'm
running
talking
at
more
full
like
speed constantly and
yeah, it's
know.
not necessarily like a speed thing per se, but it's like a roadblock, right? That's like
Okay.
that stops because what you said is exactly what I was thinking as you said it was like it keeps you engaged, right? Like that stuff keeps you engaged. It may slow the pace down, but the engagement is still there. My problem is when like you die or like the engagement is kind of like not quite there. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Same for me. Like flow, like speed does have to do like a decent amount to it. If you're just lumbering along each level, it'd probably be hard to reach that. But like it's a combination of that and like just the level kind of like always keeping you engaged and you knowing what to do. Like before you hit that obstacle, you're like, I know what to do with that. And like the game is brilliant at like bringing back mechanics and changing them in just like a slight way so that it's new, but
Right.
you kind of already know what to do just intuitively, which
Mhm.
is, I guess, just a sign of really good game and level design. But yeah, that's, anyways, I didn't want to cut you off. Yeah, that's what I think of as flow.
Yeah. No, I think that was Jake for saying something.
Yeah, I mean, I just was reiterating, how much I just felt like this game just never stops trying to engage you in good ways and keep you going. So
Yeah, I
because
think they
that
do a pretty
when
good job.
when I picked the game, I said it in the last podcast that, or whenever I picked it, that I put it right up there with Super Mario World as far as a 2D platformer, and a lot of people might, balk at that because of the masterpiece that Super Mario World is. And yeah, there's certain things about Rayman that aren't as intricate as something like Super Mario World, but in just the feeling that it evokes of like existing in this, like it's just a 2D platformer where you hit a few buttons. But I
Mm-hmm.
felt like the world was so alive and the experience was so engaging without any frills of anything besides, the little gimmicks from the Wii U thing. But even at that, it's like it's there's just no barrier to like playing and being in the world and getting through it. And Super Mario World is actually a much more difficult game. It does require a little bit more um, actual different execution and trial and error exploring some of the levels and stuff. But I
Right.
mean, from just a perspective of playing a platformer and the enjoyment that I got out of it back then is like the same. There's just they go deeper in different ways. Like Rayman has all this collectible stuff and the speed run stuff to master and the music levels you can just jump in and play for fun, and something like a Super Mario World has a way bigger place to discover secrets in and different ways to beat whole levels,
Right.
and
Yeah,
not
for
so much
sure.
collectibles. So it's different, but it's like the same. It's just on different levels. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I would say not much, but I would say I prefer like the Super Mario thing, but they are very different, like to what you're saying. They're so different it's hard to like really compare the two
yeah,
directly. So, yeah.
and that brings me to, I wanted to ask you guys about how you felt about the scratch off tickets because I forgot about that too, and I know why it was in there too. Well, like I think this was before everything was experimenting with as
Loot
much loot
box
Loot
boxes,
as much,
boxes.
but
yeah.
as we can see, the storm was rising then. But you would scratch them off on the Wii U gamepad, and I just completely glossed over all this. But it definitely, when I saw it this time, I was like, oh, that does not age well, like at all.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, it definitely, like, I had like a very negative like knee-jerk reaction to that, like scratch tickets and loot boxes, and I was like, what the frick is this? And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, it's all like a self-contained system.
Yeah, it
Okay,
is
all right, that's
self-contained, but there are levels behind it. But I think even within the first couple hours of me playing and just naturally getting the scratch off tickets, I think I got most of the old levels because it unlocks
yeah,
the origins levels.
Mhm.
right, exactly.
But
Yeah, yeah, it just I think the worst thing about it is it just doesn't age very well, right? Like
yeah,
we
it
live in a
looks
world
bad.
where
It looks
that's
like
like a
you're
real thing.
making. It looks like you're trying to get kids to get into gambling.
Yeah, like why?
It's
Why would you do a
definitely
scratch ticket? Come on.
yeah. It's kind of dirty feeling, even though it like
Yeah.
completely doesn't look real and it's very
And
cartoonized.
you
But it's
scratch
just
all of
kind of
them
like
anyways and stuff.
yeah. It's very strange and it's definitely a precursor to hey, what if this was a live game and like we added new
Yeah.
levels and you had to buy scratch off tickets to get those new levels
Jeez.
so you could
Yuck.
participate in speedrun challenges every day and
Ugh.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of things that well, maybe I'll let George give his take on that
Oh,
before I.
I don't have a lot to say. I'm not a fan of like having to go and like go back to the same menu over and over for like a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Like if there was a way to like scratch them all, like do a bulk scratch, I would have done them all, but I think I still have like 50 something. I'm not gonna even check, but I have like a bunch undone because I'm just lazy, I guess. I don't know. I don't like having to go scratch a ticket, go through all the prompts saying, "Oh, you unlock this thing," blah blah blah, then literally go right back into it, and so I just
And you're not even
let them
getting anything
accumulate.
that crazy. I mean, like the
Yeah.
best thing you can get really is a new level.
Levels. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, which again, I think that they probably programmed that to like for those to come out of the tickets really fast. So
Mhm.
then after that, it's just
Right.
mostly the other stuff.
The other stuff.
Yeah.
The extra
Yeah.
collectible
The
stuff.
little creatures and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just that kind of leads right into what I wanted to say next was like the thing maybe I liked the least in this whole game was the menu. Just like the pause menu, not in-game pause menu, but like when you're in the normal like level selection. I hated like
Yeah, it's weird looking.
it was so freaking disorienting to figure out what the frick was going on for the first 30 minutes of like going to this menu and this goes into this area and you go into this
Yeah.
painting and it goes over here
Going
and then
to
once
the
you're in this
paintings.
painting there's like more paintings but then there's like another door you can go inside that painting and then there's like another section here that has like other paintings you can go. I was like, what is happening? I don't understand what's going on. Like holy frick, man, I didn't understand for the longest time and it's so like difficult.
Well, it's
like,
even worse that they give you these pop-up notifications in the bar, like when you're in the
Yes.
menu of all the
then there's
stuff
like a
that you
pop-up
got.
thing. It's like, this thing here is like telling me to do and unlock. Do you want to see this thing? And do you want to go to here? And then it's like, okay, I thought it was here, but then this menu that I said I wanted to see this thing, now it's taking me to another place. Now I got to go
Yeah, it just
back to
completely
where I
warps
was.
you.
Holy
The thing I
frick,
disliked
dude.
the most was that like to get into it you had to jump. I have a tendency to jump in like that thing, and
Yeah,
even
I would
like
get into
later
levels
in,
all the time. I didn't mean to.
yes, exactly, because you're just like in there, and I don't know if I'm running from left to right, I just jump. It's just a thing that I do, and
yeah, I feel you.
I never learned my lesson. Like even towards the end of the game, I would accidentally go into the wrong painting, and I'd have to like wait for the level to load, and so I'd have that like
Yeah.
precursor thing,
and
then
you're
I'd
on the
get to a
Switch
level,
too.
and
That
then,
could take forever.
yeah, the load times are not so great in the Switch, and like I'd
Oh,
have
really?
to wait, and
They're like
was
half
terrible.
a second on the
Yeah,
PC.
they're so fast.
Oh.
On
You can't.
PC.
I can barely even get the heart thing ever.
Yeah.
dude,
like,
I got
there's
the
a-
heart every time. It's like
There's
10
a heart in
seconds
the
on
loading
Switch.
screen. I would get like 3 steps to it and start to punch, and it would just be like, no, you're in the game. I guess
Yeah,
they
you
didn't. They didn't design it with SSDs in mind.
Well,
Yeah, I guess.
actually, they did because some of the levels load, and if it doesn't have a heart, it will like show that area for like literally half a second, and then immediately go into the level. So I think
Oh,
when
okay.
there's a heart thing, it loads in the first like seconds, but the second you get to that heart and you throw a punch, the thing is like, okay, you've done enough. Send them out now. Bring them into the level because it's
They're
already
just
ready to
teasing
go.
you. They're
Okay.
teasing you.
Yeah, they give you a chance to get the heart, and if you don't get it, then frick you, go into the level now. So yeah, so George did have a advantage with having to wait for it actually to load the whole freaking time.
I had the heart every time, and it would just give you like extra lums, or not lums. What are they called? Lums? The little
Looms.
Yeah,
yellow things?
looms, lums,
Looms.
Yeah.
looms.
I think they're called
Um,
looms because they illuminate. Things.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, so the menu sucked. Just give me a menu. Come on. Like, I understand it's cool and it's part of, like, the aesthetic. Jake, you probably liked it a lot because it probably would bring you more from an immersive perspective into it because that's...
I did like the walking around and like being in the imagining being in the different hallways and looking at everything. That it's cool, but yeah, like you said, the actual menu part of you should just be able to get a full, just really easy to read because there's not that much.
Yeah.
Just give a full, easy to read. Here's all the things, and then just be able to warp you right to whatever door you want to go to.
Yeah.
And then just jump into it because yeah, it's a little like you can go back to home very easily. There's like right in the center. There's like a go back to home, and then you have to go wherever you want. But yeah, that whole part was different.
It's so overwhelming at the start because there's, like, the
Yeah, it is
Origins
overwhelming
menu
at
and
the
the
beginning.
challenge
And you're unlocking
menu
all
and
this
another
stuff
thing,
after
and-
the first 2 levels, and it's just
Yeah, it's like all this stuff unlocks, and you're like, what am I even doing? Where do I go? I don't understand. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
once I got used to it, it was not a problem, and I did like just being able to walk around it and look at stuff. It did add something for me, but also the other game had an overworld map, and I like those too. So
Right.
you know, just
Yeah.
different.
It's very different. Yeah, and I did acclimate eventually. It's just really obnoxious. Especially when you're like, where was that one level again I want to go back to? And frickin', was it in this door? And then I have to go in another door, and frick me. So that's something
Yeah.
I definitely didn't like.
Yeah, and it doesn't give you like a sense. It kind of like if you have beat so many levels in the first one and then you unlock because you got so many teeny, like your progression can be different
So
because
all
you,
over the place.
yeah, because you can be like, oh, I've unlocked this. I got all the teenies in like the first 3/4 of the first world, which means I unlocked like 50% of the game already, and it
Right.
wants you to go look at that, and then you could start playing the third world, before you even have finished the first one.
Yeah.
So I don't like that the progression gets cut up like that a little bit. I feel like
Yeah,
that's
same.
kind of they should have just been like they should have gated each world for till you beat the other one, I think, in my
Yeah.
opinion, and not like bother you with like, hey, look, more. Hey, we
you
know
get
there's
some
more.
more.
There's a game, we're playing
Yeah,
it.
I'm playing through it. Okay, thanks.
So,
Yeah.
that it's very awkward. That's one of the biggest weird design choices, I would say.
I
You're
wonder
right.
why they
Yeah.
decided to do it that way. Like, I really don't like, oh, you need to get X collectible to, like, unlock the next levels. And they're pretty generous about, like, doing it, so you don't really, like, I didn't go for completion whatsoever. I wonder if, in my opinion, I think the first world was kind of so-so, and the second world is also kind of, like, so-so. So I wonder if, they felt like, oh, well, let's get people in. If they don't like the first world, they can try out another world and see if they like that better, maybe. I don't
Yeah,
know.
possibly. Like, so the thing with being your progression being stopped from collecting the stuff was also in Origins.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit more tight. I feel like I had to go back and play and master some levels in Origins.
In Origins, definitely. They
way
definitely
more
loosened it up
than
in Legends.
Legends. Yeah, so maybe that's and apparently Origins kind of tanked pretty hard, and so
Really?
Really?
according to some stuff I was seeing, reading, so
Huh.
so maybe you're right. Maybe they were just like, hey, well, let's just start throwing everything at these people just to keep them coming in
Keep 'em
at the door,
engaged.
and especially. And it goes back to the thing with like aiming all this stuff at kids and trying to get them because it has the scratch offs that you earn. It has 50 notifications every time you beat something and unlock it. And it wants you to look at your little pet creatures, and it wants you to log in daily to visit them. And so it just feels like it's trying really hard to just try and throw the kitchen sink at you so that you find something that gets you to come back in.
Right.
When to me it's just like the game is just good. You don't
Yeah.
need all this stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, I like some collectible stuff. I think the creature stuff is cool, but don't like slam it in my face and do all this other weird stuff with it.
Yeah, seriously. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know what
the-
I... Oh, go ahead, George.
Well,
please.
I was gonna say another thing that I dislike, but
So was I.
say, oh, okay. Well, I was gonna say the story. I thought the story was just kind of,
Yeah, it's very...
Yeah.
But that's Rayman. I think the only story that's
That's
been really
Rayman.
good is Rayman on the 64, the 3D one. That actually had like a story, but even that was like it was okay.
I remember some of the Game Boy Advance ones, or maybe it was DS. Like I honestly can't remember. It's been so long, but some of those had a decent enough story, but maybe not. Maybe just a kid. Like I am very much a story guy. I'm not only a story guy. Like I can enjoy games that have a lackluster story, but a lot of times a good story can go a long way. And I know we're not there yet, but when I talk about the games that I'm picking, like it's a story game. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
Rayman on the DS.
There might have not been
3D?
one on the. Maybe there wasn't a 3DS one.
Was it
I don't know.
3D or was
Or
it
a DS.
2D?
So there's a 3D one that I remember. There's a bunch of 2D ones, and it's not 3D per se. It's like what's it called? Where it's like a sideways, not a sideways view, but like a slanted top down. What's it called? Isometric. Is
Isometric.
that yeah, isometric view? Is that the term, or am I?
Did you
making
ever
stuff
play
up?
the one where you shoot stuff out of Rayman's hand, like he shoots like glowy balls as his like attack? Did you ever play that one? It's a 3D one, and you shoot glowy stuff out of your hand to attack.
That sounds familiar. There's one that I remember where you're like on sand and you're like standing on a thing and you're kind of like I'm not gonna try and explain it, to be honest. But you're like, it's like almost like Mario Kart. You're like on a track and you're like standing on like a little like ball, and you're kind of trying to avoid obstacles and jumping and stuff like that. But then it would go back to like 2D standard side scrolling. And
Okay,
dude,
so that's
to be
not
honest,
the thing I'm thinking about.
it's been so long that if you were to like ask me questions about it, I just remember the feelings the game's
Right.
invoked.
Invoked. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're having trouble with English today?
Every day, not just today, every day.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
You remember, you're the only one that gets an excuse on that because
That's true.
Yeah, it's not my native language, guys.
Yeah.
So
We'll be lenient. Yeah, if you can believe that. So yeah, no, I agree with you. You were saying, things that we also didn't like. Yeah. So one thing I really don't like about Rayman Legends is anytime you have to do gliding with your head thing, like it's just, especially when it's like air, and like, because like when you're doing the boss fight where you're fighting the big fat guy in the bubble and you're floating in the air. The one thing I really hated, the frog, yeah. So the one thing I really hated was like when you're in the air and you attack, you stay completely stationary. And in levels, it's actually not too bad. You can like use it as like a hover or a float, and it kind of like works. But in the boss fight, I was like, I want to fall and attack at the same time. But like you can't. Yeah, if you do that,
or if you
go
look
straight
down,
and
you
die.
just go straight down.
Yeah, so I just wanted to like attack sideways while I was falling to like hit all the missiles and stuff. But you can't do that. You just like stay still and then you get hit in the face because you're not moving. And so I don't know. It was too slow. The gliding was like, sections are too slow. There's not enough control. It feels really floaty. So anytime there was like a overabundance of like gliding sections, especially with the air, freaking hated it, dude. It was like, that was the water level of this game, was any levels that had to do with that.
Yeah, I didn't mind the gliding too much. I felt like without the air, you fell forward too much though, sometimes. Like, or not forward, you felt like you descended much faster without. The air ones, they did feel really floaty, you're right. I wish you would have, like, it's weird. Without the air, I felt like when you were gliding, you fell down too fast. And with the air, you didn't fall down fast enough.
Yeah,
makes any sense.
I could see it. Yeah, like his glide, you do descend pretty quick. I just wish if they would have increased the vertical, or I guess it's horizontal, movement of left and right while you're gliding by like 50%, I think it would have been just fine. But it didn't feel great to me. So that was definitely those parts I dreaded every time I saw him come up.
Thankfully, the hitboxes of a lot of the like missiles and spikies and stuff like that, like there was some times where like my entire foot like passed on top of the missile, and I was like, oh, I'm still alive. I didn't get hit. All right.
Nice.
So they were
passed between the
thankfully
foot and the body.
That's true.
That's why he has the gaps.
That's
There
right.
you
There's
go,
no
there you
limbs,
go.
right?
So at least they were forgiving in that sense, but there was times where I can see that it was kind of clunky for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely agree with you. It's not the best parts of the game. They don't bother me as much, but if I could point at one thing that I would think that people wouldn't like, it would definitely be those sections. But they're not. I don't feel like there's too many of it, or too many of them, or that they're too difficult. So
Yeah, they were bothersome, but they weren't detrimental.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, is there anything left unsaid? I mean, that's exhausted what the things that I wanted to kind of touch on for it.
Pretty much me too.
There's maybe one thing I could think of. Is there there's multiplayer in this one, right? There was multiplayer in Origins too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I believe like actually you can just play multiple people in the same level.
Okay.
Um,
It sounds like total
The
chaos, but it
Switch-
sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, the Switch
Yeah.
version has like a soccer thing. You know
yeah,
how like
and
some
the
of those
soccer thing was
levels-
in the original as well,
Oh,
and that
was
is
it? Okay.
actually super fun. When I had it on Wii U, a friend of mine and my brother, we would play that back and forth because it's just so simple and so fun. Like you're just like you would ground pound the ball and it would go way off, and then everybody would be waiting to like jump up and try and smash it because it would be like in fire mode when it comes down. So
Right.
that's I'm probably gonna leave this game downloaded on my computer because it doesn't take much room anyway. And next time I have some friends over, we play little games like that, like Duck Game or Tricky Towers or something like that. That's just a really easy game to just
Right.
to just pick up and start mashing buttons and play. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't remember. I definitely played multiplayer with multiple people on Origins, but I don't think I ever did that with Legends. So I don't know how that would work. And I do know that I think you can do the Murphy levels where one person controls one and one person controls the other. I never did
Oh,
that either. I don't
interesting.
think, but
That might be cool. That might be a cool idea.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Yeah.
Cappy with
that takes the Murphy
Odyssey.
levels to like a whole nother
Yeah.
level. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, it would have been fun if we could have played the soccer game, but I mean, I'm on a different platform than you guys, and there's no
Yeah.
True.
crossplay. But it would have been fun.
Yeah.
I saw some videos on it, and it looks like a hoot. So it would have definitely been fun. But it's just the way it is, I guess.
Yeah, that's how it goes. All right. Well, George, do you want to add anything else, or you feel like you kind of hit all the major points?
For what I have to say, yeah, I guess just like to close it off, I'll just
Sure.
briefly reiterate what I said in the beginning of the game or the episode, which was I felt like this was a very, very, very solid 2D platform game, one of the best ones out there currently, or at least that I've played. And as a Rayman game, I personally wanted other things out of it, but that's simply because I have a previous history with the character and with the games. But highly recommend this one. This was definitely one that I can see has wide appeal and a lot of people would enjoy. So,
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, I'll go next. I think I mean I echo a lot of that. The disappointment I had when I first originally played Origins wasn't really that big because I remember playing Rayman a lot as a kid, and then playing the N64 game, and then I remember when they finally, because Rayman was on hiatus for a long time in between that, and I just remember when they
8 years, I
finally,
think.
yeah, it was a long time. Well, even I'm thinking of a different hiatus period because there was a period in time where I was waiting for another game, and they finally announced a new Rayman game, and it was Rayman Raving Rabbids. And I don't know if you guys ever played that game, but I was really excited because I was a dumb kid at the time and I didn't realize this was going to be fundamentally just a totally different game. So I was so excited for a new Rayman game to come out, and then Raving Rabbids came out and I bought it, and I was like, what the frick? This is not at all.
It's like mini games, isn't
It's
it?
mini games. It's really garbage mini games. It's just the whole thing is awful. They're basically like retarded minions. I absolutely hate all of it. And so yeah, like,
but I love them in the Mario Rabbids.
they found their niche. I will say they found a better way to put them, and they took them out of the Rayman universe and they put it into, like, I don't know, whatever the frick stupidity it is. But I think they made them work eventually, but the fact that they had them shoehorned in with Rayman initially was like massively disappointing. So seeing Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends be such a big departure, not even that big of a departure, but to see them be a fundamental departure at least, it's disappointing. But overall the games are really high quality, and I've already had such a massive disappointment with Raving Rabbids, so it didn't hit me as hard with this one. So I think it's fine overall. I just hope we can.
There was 3 Raving Rabbids games.
I know, don't remind me.
Wow. And Graham bought every single one.
I bought the first one.
He has them up on the shelf. They're all classics.
They're framed. I bought the first one, and I freaking learned my lesson, dude. Holy frick.
I never played any of them.
Yeah, you're the better man for it. Yeah. So I don't know. But yeah, other than that, I think they're solid games. They're not my favorite ever, but they're really solid. I think they're good games. So I just hope we get some traditional. I just hope, personally, the 3D one was my favorite. I hope we can go back to making something like that in the future. But even going back to the classic Rayman style would be okay too. But we'll have to see. Are you okay? Hold on. You got to give. You can play us off, but you have to give your final thoughts first.
Yeah. No, I was just preparing.
Okay.
Yeah. So final thoughts on this game. This game has charm out the wazoo. I just love everything. I didn't have a history with Rayman, but when I started with Origins, And it really just starts with Origins. Like I just like this one better because of the musical levels. But they're both great. They're in the same style. The characters are amazing. The art is amazing. I love. You guys said the story being missing was like a big thing for you. I don't feel that so much in this because it's it evokes just like that very lighthearted Saturday morning cartoon that just like nothing matters and it's just a cartoon world, and the stakes are very low and we're just smacking people around and grooving to some music and having fun. And yeah, the music is amazing. There's a lot of different things that they've done between Origins and this one. Like Origins was a little bit stranger with its like had more ukulele and kazoo and like didgeridoo sounds and like jaw harp sounds and stuff, which was really cool. And they kind of brought some of that over, but in this one, obviously they've gone a little bit higher with it. They've got orchestras, I think, to do some of this stuff, and then they do those remixes of some of those very popular songs in the run levels. So all of that stuff together, and just it's just simple, easy to play. It's a great, relaxing game, and it really takes me back. And it's something that's modern, but also reminds me of before games were complicated, minus the dumb stuff that they've done in the menus and the stupid scratch tickets. If you turn a blind eye to that for a few seconds, between levels, then you're perfectly fine.
Right. They try so hard to take you out of the pure game enjoyment.
Yeah, it's just weird. I can't. I mean, I forgot about all that stuff. So at least so in another 2 years, I'll have forgotten maybe that again, and it'll be pure in my mind. There to rest.
That's just a testament to how good the levels are, though.
Yeah,
if that's what sticks out to you.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah, for sure.
All right, well, we're gonna do our game announcement in a second here, but to end off our discussion, Jake, do you have something for us to end us off here?
I got the uke here.
Yes, please. Oh,
nice.
It's so good. At the end of levels, occasionally, not every time, but at the end of levels when I hit that max and it would just like I would just be like, yeah, let's jam out. It's so good. Which is funny because that was one of my favorite things from the original Rayman. At the end of levels, it would be like they would do like this thing, and every time I was like, yes, I love this. So Rayman's always had these little catchy things at the end of levels, so it's great. It's great. It's a great series, and I honestly hope they continue Rayman. But it's been a while, I think, since Rayman has had anything, so we'll see.
He's gonna come out in Smash. He'll be the last Smash DLC character, and
he's already in one of those other games, though, isn't he?
Is he? I don't know. He probably.
I feel like he's in one of those like what's
fighting
that
games?
One?
Brawlhalla or something.
Yeah, that one, Brawlhalla.
He could be.
I've
Pretty
literally
sure he's
never
in
heard of this.
Brawlhalla.
What is this? Brawl?
You've never heard of Brawlhalla? Anyways,
I
we're gonna get lost in
haven't.
the weeds right at the end of this conversation. So
Hold up. What is this game?
You've never heard of Brawlhalla? That's
It's
bizarre.
just
It's got
another one of those
Tigress
clones.
from Kung Fu Panda. What?
It's got a lot of people in it.
It's
yeah.
weird.
It's got so many characters.
It's weird.
Yeah,
Is
It's
he
like
in
a
there?
pay to play character.
Is Rayman in it? Yeah.
Rayman's in it.
I'm glad
Rayman's
actually
in
we
it.
had this slight detour because I have a tab open here that I wanted to talk about really quick. If you like, this
John
goes for
Cena's in it?
yeah.
Sorry, go.
This goes for George as well as anyone. This is a really maybe a niche thing, but anyone who really likes the disembodied thing, like that's like a cool thing, the dismembered, disembodied type thing. Limbless. Yeah, if you really like the limbless aesthetic, there's a game on the Sega Genesis called Heady. Dynamite Heady. Just head and then D, it's like DDY, head DDY, Heady.
Okay.
Dynamite Heady. This game I played as like a kid.
Like an ant?
Yeah, he's like a weird kind of like antish looking guy, but he throws his head as his like attack, and it does give a lot of Rayman vibes. The game is kind of like it's amazing. Like the game is really good. I can't recommend enough. But if that's something that really does it for you and you want like more of that from somewhere, you can't go wrong with Heady. The game's like really solid. It's kind of got like some kind of like almost like, what's the word? Like just really bizarre, almost like unsettling pixel art in it on like some things. Like I'm particularly thinking of like this cat bear boss thing, and it's just really weird. But it's a cool game. It's a really solid game. So that's just like a random recommendation
Nice.
right at the end
We
there.
might have to do this as a game that we play.
Hey,
There's a weird baby head like.
It's weird. It gets really weird, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's a really really cool game. I haven't played it in
Nice.
like 2 decades, but it's cool. So
Nice. Yeah. Hey, I am a fan of the like. There's a picture that I'm seeing where he's like got his fist clenched and he's got his head on his other hand and he's like about to chuck it. And I like that kind of stuff. So
it's cool, man. It's really cool. I can't recommend Dynamite Heady enough. It's really cool. But I played it in 2 decades. Maybe it hasn't aged well. But when we were talking about Rayman, this game immediately came to my mind. Almost every time I think about it. So, anyways, that's that. That's our conversation. George, before we close off, I believe you have to pick the next video game that we're going to play.
I am, yes.
If that's correct, let's see.
So again, I am a story guy. I'll probably even say this when we play this one, but I was just looking for games again that fit our criteria of kind of shortish games. And the game that I am picking for next episode, well, whenever we do it, is To the Moon. It's got overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam, which was definitely a thing that stood out to me. And Steam describes it as a story-driven experience about 2 doctors traversing backwards through a dying man's memories to artificially fulfill his last wish.
Interesting.
And some of the reviews, I guess it pulls at the heartstrings a lot. A lot of the reviews are kind of spoiler free, but it seems like it's a rather sentimental game, which was another thing that kind of piqued my interest. So yeah.
So you're gonna make me cry, is what you're saying.
Hey, I might cry too, dude. I cry like it.
So you haven't played this?
I cry very easily as well.
I haven't played it, no.
Okay.
So I'm interested to see how it turns out.
Okay.
So yeah, that'll be the game for next time.
Excellent. And where can people find it if they want to play along with us? Where can they grab it?
Steam, GOG, I'm sure has it. Alien Man Gaming, it's everywhere. It's really old. It came out in 2011.
Other than PC, is it on any platforms other than PC?
Oh yes. There was a Switch remaster that came out recently. Hold on, let me just make sure I'm correct on that. To the Moon, Switch. Yes. Yep. Oh, okay. It came out at the beginning of last year, actually, January 2020. So.
Okay.
So there you go.
All right. Well, anyone who wants to join us, please go ahead. We'll have a discussion here, and then anyone who's interested in having a discussion, we will also have places like our subreddit and different areas to have conversations with us. So we welcome you to join us. But I'm very excited to check out To the Moon and. Jake, that was a great pick on Rayman Legends. Very solid experience. So why don't we all say goodbye as Jake plays us off here? And we'll see you all next time.
See ya.
Oh,
I love it. Nice.